I think it'd be interesting before we dive into things like the non-identity problem and the repugnant conclusion, just to linger on this idea of kind of blame, and then we can move forward. So kind of wrapping this into the sort of next thought then. So there's a thought experiment within Reasons and Persons. I'm going to butcher it now, but it goes something like this. Somebody basically causes somebody to hurt their leg, and then their leg has to be amputated. And then that person is assigned blame for causing this person to lose their leg. But unbeknownst to them, 3 years down the line, say, a war breaks out and conscription is ensued. And this person doesn't have to get conscripted into the forces to fight because they don't have a leg, and therefore they don't die with everybody else who has to go to war. Not that everybody dies going to war, but most people, if you look at World War I, World War II, did end up dying when they went to war. So with this thought experiment, basically, there's this idea of kind of, should the person that originally caused this individual to lose their leg due to an accident still have the same amount of blame assigned as when it was originally imposed? And Parfit is a really interesting way of kind of understanding blame, or almost saying it's something we should avoid. So I'll throw it back to you, David, to explore for us.
So it's a very big topic in philosophy. There's lots of books and articles about this kind of topic. So, I mean, one way to look at the leg example would be to say, obviously you didn't know that this person was going to be conscripted, so you should be blamed for chopping off this person's leg, given the expectation that this was just going to be bad for the person. That seems like the most logical way of dealing with it. In the literature, and this comes not from Derek, but from his great friend and sort of philosophical foe, Bernard Williams, there's this idea of moral luck. Moral luck's fascinating. So I think Williams, and again, I'll probably butcher it now, but I think Williams' case is two people who are at a party. They both drink at this party, and then they both drive. So they've both done something wrong. One of them turns left, one of them turns right. The person who turns right gets home fine, and nobody has been harmed. The person who turns left turns a corner, and because their reactions have been slowed by the drink, cause an accident. So it's difficult to know what to make of that case. If you take the example of the leg that you were just talking about, it looks like they're both equally to blame. Given the expectation of what the consequences of their actions would be, the expectation is the same in both cases. And Bernard Williams has this very rich sort of article, and he seems to think that that's just moral luck, and it does make sense in some way to blame the person who has bad actions, who has bad consequences, to blame that person more than the person who, as it were, got away with it. So, Derek's interested in this whole debate. We should say something else about Derek's attitude to praise and blame. I mentioned right at the beginning that he grew up in a family of missionaries, a very religious family, and he lost his faith early on. And the reason he lost his faith was that he couldn't reconcile the idea of there being an all-good God and God allowing terrible things to happen in the world, and that one ends up burning in hell for eternity. Those things didn't seem to make sense to a young Parfit. And he became something which is, later on, something which is very fashionable, very unfashionable amongst philosophers, and that is, he became a determinist. So his view was that we're part of a physical universe with obviously very complicated creatures, but fundamentally we're made up of electrons and molecules and protons. We're made up of physical stuff. And just as when one billiard ball hits another billiard ball and causes that second billiard ball to move in a particular direction, so all our actions are caused. They're caused by our physiological makeup, they're caused by our upbringing, by the environment. Everything I do is caused by a set of preceding events. And if you take that view, and there are some complications around the edges, if you take that view, then fundamentally praise and blame begin not to make much sense, because if I go shoplifting and steal some milk and yogurt from the dairy counter, I've done so for all sorts of, the explanation for why I've done that is a set of preceding causes. It may be, I was never told the difference between right and wrong. Maybe I was desperately poor. I needed to feed my kids. Whatever explanation is, I did it for reasons. And so blaming me makes no sense. And Parfit had that view that, in a sense, there's a deep sense in which blame, moral blame, just shouldn't be applied. The flip side of that, of course, is that there's a sense in which praise makes no sense. If I've done something great, I've given all my money away, I've won the Nobel Prize in literature, people say, you deserve lots of praise. Well, I don't deserve praise in that sense, because, I was maybe born a genius mathematician or something, or and I end up becoming a Nobel Prize winning winner in physics. I don't deserve that. I deserve the praise. The explanation for why I've won the Nobel Prize is that all these events followed one after the other, and so praise and blame have no real, in a deep sense, have no kind of shouldn't be applied, I think, and that was Parfit's view.
If you enjoyed this clip, then head on over to Locals to access the full conversation right now. Supporters can access the video version, and everyone can access the audio-only version of the conversation. I'll see you over there.